The words hit him like a physical blow, each syllable dripping with a contempt that had nothing to do with his record and everything to do with the color of his skin. "Black boy," Captain Mason Reynolds had said, his voice booming across the cramped briefing room. The disdain palpable among the gathered men, Eli Carter felt the weight of that label settle over him like a suffocating shroud. It was a name that stripped him of his identity, reducing him to a mere color in a room full of men who believed they were his superiors. The uneasy silence that followed was louder than the echoes of gunfire he had trained to master. The military base in southern Alabama was a patchwork of dusty grounds and towering pine trees, their needles whispering secrets under the hot sun. The air was thick with the scent of gunpowder and sweat, a harsh reminder of the world Eli had chosen to join. He was a young black soldier from a poor neighborhood in Atlanta, Georgia, a place where dreams often suffocated under the weight of reality. At just 20 years old, he was the youngest in his battalion, a distinction that felt more like a curse than a badge of honor. He had a natural talent for marksmanship, honed through countless hours of practice, but none of that seemed to matter in the eyes of men like Captain Reynolds. Eli stood at the back of the room, his hands clenched into fists at his sides, feeling the heat of shame creep up his neck. The captain's eyes swept over him, not with the assessment of a soldier's worth, but with the dismissal reserved for something beneath notice. "You'll be on latrine duty," he said, his voice flat. The mission briefing continued without him, and the other soldiers shifted their gazes, snickering and exchanging glances that said more than words ever could. Eli's heart sank further as he felt the sharp sting of a world that refused to see him as anything but an outsider. Beside him stood Private Jake Thompson, Eli's closest friend, who had a knack for finding the light in even the darkest situations. Jake was the kind of guy who could turn a mundane day into an adventure, a quality Eli had always admired. "Ignore them, Eli. You know you're better than this," Jake whispered, his voice barely above a murmur. But it was enough to pull Eli back from the brink of despair. The bond they shared was forged in the furnace of shared experiences, and Jake's unwavering belief in Eli's abilities was a flicker of hope amidst the pervasive darkness. But the unfair treatment continued to seep into Eli's daily life, a persistent reminder of the uphill battle he faced. Assigned menial tasks while his comrades trained for the mission ahead, he felt the injustice weigh heavily on his shoulders. The others saw him as a liability, a black boy in a world that expected him to fail. Eli's heart raced with frustration as he watched them prepare for combat, their camaraderie evident in their banter while he was left to scrub the latrine floors. The smell of bleach burning his nostrils. The sound of boots on concrete echoed through the barracks, signaling the approach of Sergeant Bill Hargrove, a veteran soldier with a reputation for being tough but fair. Eli had seen Hargrove look at him with skepticism, but today he approached with an unusual seriousness. "Carter," he barked, catching Eli off guard, "you think you're ready for the real deal? Or are you going to keep hiding in the shadows?" Eli felt the heat rise in his cheeks, a fire igniting in his chest. "I'm ready, Sergeant. I just need a chance to prove it," he said, his voice steady, despite the turmoil churning within. The words felt bold, and he knew he had to seize the moment. But Hargrove's eyes narrowed. The skepticism etched into his features. "Prove it. You think you can just show up and take the lead. This isn't a game, boy. You've got to earn your place here," Hargrove replied, his tone dripping with condescension. The insult cut deep, a reminder that no matter how hard Eli tried, the shadows of prejudice loomed over him like an unshakable curse. Eli's jaw clenched, but he held his ground. He could see it in Hargrove's eyes. The certainty that he would fail, that he had to fail because to succeed would shatter the comfortable lie they'd built their world upon. The thought of proving them wrong swirled in his mind, fueling a determination he hadn't known he possessed. But as the day wore on, doubts crept in, gnawing at his resolve. He could hardly focus on the tasks at hand, his mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. The upcoming mission felt like a ticking clock, a countdown to a moment that could change everything or reinforce the labels that had been thrust upon him. If he didn't act now, if he didn't find a way to break free from the constraints of their expectations, his chance would slip away. As he scrubbed the latrines, The cold metal of the brush felt foreign in his hands, a tool meant for the menial, not for one meant to fight. In his breast pocket, folded and refolded 100 times, was a letter from his mother, a heartfelt plea to come home safe. "You're destined for greatness, Eli," she'd written, her words echoing in his mind. "Just remember who you are." He intended to keep that promise, but the path ahead seemed shrouded in uncertainty. Before the briefing concluded, the captain's final words rang out, each one a reminder of the uphill battle Eli faced. "We'll take the bridge before dawn. I expect every man to prove his worth," Reynolds declared, a smirk playing on his lips as he looked pointedly at Eli. "And that includes you, black boy." As the men shuffled out, Eli felt the weight of that name settle over him once more. It ignited a spark of rebellion within him, the desire to fight against the injustice that threatened to define him. He could feel the resentment bubbling to the surface, mingling with the hope that refused to be extinguished. In that moment, Eli made a silent vow. He would not let them define him. He would rise above their expectations, and when the time came, he would show them just who he was. His story was far from over, and he was determined to write it on his own terms. Before we continue, let us know in the comments about a time when you faced unfair treatment. How did you overcome it? Together we can create a community where everyone's story matters. Now, back to Eli. The tension in the air thickened as Eli stood rooted to the spot, the echoes of Captain Reynolds' words reverberating in his mind. He could feel the eyes of his fellow soldiers drilling into him, some with pity, others with scorn. He clenched his fists, trying to suppress the surge of anger threatening to boil over. The weight of the moment was crushing, and he knew he had to find a way to rise above it. "Come on, Eli," Jake whispered, nudging him. His friend's voice was a lifeline in the storm of emotions swirling around him. "Let's get out of here." They slipped out of the briefing room, where the sounds of laughter faded into the distance. Eli felt the cool breeze of the outside wash over him, a brief reprieve from the stifling atmosphere inside. But even in this moment of solace, the sting of the captain's words lingered. He could hear the whispers of doubt coiling around his mind like a snake, squeezing tighter with each passing second. "Don't let him get to you," Jake urged, his expression earnest. "You know you're better than that." "Better than what?" Eli snapped, frustration bubbling to the surface. "Better than being the butt of every joke? Better than being just the black boy?" His voice trembled with the intensity of his emotions. Jake stepped closer, his brow furrowed with concern. "You've got the skills, Eli, you know it. Just wait for our mission tomorrow. Show them what you can do, you're a damn good shot." Eli nodded, but self-doubt clawed at his insides. The upcoming mission was critical, a chance to secure a bridge that could cut off enemy reinforcements, but with his luck, he'd probably be stuck on latrine duty, just like the captain had said. "Listen," Jake continued, trying to bolster Eli's spirits. "Sergeant Hargrove is on the fence about you. If you can impress him during the mission, it might change everything." Eli's heart raced at the thought. Sergeant Hargrove had been a reluctant supporter at best. He was a veteran who had seen too much, his skepticism toward new soldiers palpable. But if he could just get the chance to prove himself, maybe... "Attention!" The sharp bark of command cut through Eli's thoughts as Captain Reynolds appeared, flanked by other officers. "I need volunteers for tomorrow's mission. We'll be moving out at dawn. I'll be picking the team." Eli's heart sank. He could practically feel the eyes of his peers on him, judging and dismissing him before the captain even spoke. As expected, his name was not called. Instead, Reynolds' finger jabbed in Eli's direction. "You, Carter, you'll be on latrine duty." The laughter that followed felt like a dagger, twisting in Eli's gut. He turned away, anger bubbling just under the surface, ready to boil over. "You could be out there with us, Eli," Jake whispered, his voice barely a breath against the rising tide of humiliation. "You know you can do it." But Eli couldn't shake the feeling that he was trapped in a cage built by the prejudices of those around him. He wanted to scream, to show them he was more than they believed him to be. The words of his mother echoed in his mind, urging him to stay strong, to rise above the hatred. But what good was strength if no one acknowledged it? The day dragged on, each hour a slow march through the mire of resentment and doubt. Eli spent most of it scrubbing the latrines, the foul stench of cleaning supplies mingling with the sweat on his brow. Each scrub of the floor was a reminder of what he was missing, a chance to prove himself, a chance to fight for something greater than the confines of this base. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the ground, Eli found himself alone, staring out into the darkening woods that surrounded the camp. His fingers traced the scar on his palm, a relic from a life before the army, a reminder of battles fought long before he donned the uniform. The pain from that scar was a familiar comfort, a testament to his resilience. He closed his eyes, envisioning the mission. The sound of gunfire, the adrenaline coursing through his veins, the camaraderie of his fellow soldiers. But then, a sobering thought emerged. What if he failed? What if Reynolds was right? What if he was nothing more than the color of his skin, a walking target in a world that didn't want him? Just then, the rustle of footsteps broke through his reverie. Eli turned to find Sergeant Hargrove approaching, his expression unreadable. "Carter," he said, his voice low. "I've been watching you." Eli's stomach dropped. "Sir," he managed, standing a little straighter. "You need to know something," Hargrove continued, his eyes locking onto Eli's. "Tomorrow's mission is critical. If you're given an opportunity, you need to seize it." Eli felt a spark of hope ignite within him, but it was quickly extinguished by doubt. "Do you really think I'll get a chance, sir? I mean, with Reynolds?" "Reynolds may have his biases, but you have a chance to prove him wrong," Hargrove said firmly, "and you'll need to trust yourself. This mission isn't just about the bridge, it's about your future here." The sergeant's words resonated with Eli, filling him with a sense of purpose. If he could just get through this mission, maybe things would change for him. Maybe he could transform the disdain into respect, not just from his captain, but from the men who called him Black Boy. And then it hit him. The area they were supposed to secure, the bridge, it wasn't just a strategic location. It was where his uncle had fought years ago, a piece of history that tied him to this land. If he could channel that connection, if he could fight not just for his unit but for his family, perhaps he could harness the strength he needed to overcome the prejudice surrounding him. As he stood in the fading light, Eli made a silent vow. He would not let fear dictate his future. He would fight, not just for the mission, but for his identity and for the respect he deserved. Before he could fully process his determination, a thought crossed his mind. What drove others to rise above challenges? What motivated them to face their own obstacles? "Hey, everyone," he called out to the men gathered by the mess hall. "What's your motivation for fighting out there?" The question hung in the air, and Eli realized it was a chance to connect, to share stories, to become more than just a soldier in the eyes of his peers. As the men offered their responses, some spoke of family, others of honor, Eli felt a sense of community beginning to grow. He wasn't alone in this fight. Together they could conquer their fears, their doubts, and the prejudices that held them back. In that fleeting moment, Eli felt a flicker of hope. It might not be much, but it was enough to light the way forward. Before wrapping up the night, he turned to the camera, his chance to engage with the audience. What motivates you to overcome your obstacles? Let us know in the comments. It's important to share our stories and support one another. Now let's get ready for tomorrow. The real fight is just beginning. As he walked away, a sense of resolve settled over him. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow he would show them who he really was. And deep down, he knew that this was just the beginning of a journey that would change everything. Stay tuned for the next chapter of Eli's story as he faces the ultimate test of courage and resilience. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one. Let's stand together against injustice, one story at a time. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the war-torn landscape as Eli Carter crouched behind a crumbling wall, his heart pounding like the distant artillery fire. The air was thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder and sweat, a brutal reminder of the chaos unfolding around him. He could hear the crackling of radio chatter, the frantic calls of his fellow soldiers, but the world around him seemed to blur into a cacophony of noise, drowning out his thoughts. "Eli, get your head down!" shouted Private Jake Thompson, his voice strained with urgency. Eli could see the fear in Jake's eyes, a stark contrast to the bravado he usually displayed. They had been in tight spots before, but this was different. This was a fight for survival, and Eli felt the weight of that responsibility pressing down on him. "We need to flank them. We can't let them hold this position." The squad had been tasked with securing the bridge, a vital choke point that could turn the tide of the ongoing conflict. But the enemy had anticipated their move, and now they were pinned down, bullets whizzing past like angry hornets. Eli's stomach twisted as he glanced at Sergeant Hargrove, who was barking orders, but even the seasoned veteran seemed uncertain, his brow furrowed with the strain of command. "Why are we just sitting here?" Eli's voice was barely above a whisper, but he felt the fire of defiance igniting in his chest. "We can't wait for them to come to us. We need to take the fight to them." "Are you out of your mind?" Hargrove shot back, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can just waltz out there? You're not ready for this." The words stung more than Eli cared to admit. They echoed the doubts of his fellow soldiers, the whispers and the looks that had haunted him since he first stepped into the battalion. The contempt of the captain, the dismissive gestures of those who believed he was nothing more than a token, a black boy among men. But today, the stakes were higher. Today, he could prove them all wrong. "Just give me a chance, Sergeant," Eli pleaded, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Let me show you what I can do." For a fleeting moment, time seemed to still. Hargrove's expression softened, and Eli could see the gears turning in the sergeant's mind. In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within him. Perhaps this was the opportunity he had been waiting for, the moment he could finally break free from the chains of doubt. But then, without warning, the world erupted around them. An explosion rocked the ground, sending debris flying through the air. Eli flinched as dirt and fragments rained down, instinctively shielding his face with his arms. The deafening blast drowned out the screams and shouts, leaving only a ringing silence in its wake. "Move, move!" Hargrove's voice cut through the chaos, snapping Eli back to reality. "We're getting flanked. We need to fall back." Panic surged through the squad as they scrambled to regroup, but Eli's mind raced with a singular thought. This was his moment. He could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins, sharpening his focus. He was done being an afterthought. Done with being sidelined, he had to act. With a deep breath, he sprinted toward the enemy's position, his heart hammering in his chest. The chaos around him faded as he locked onto his target, instincts honed through years of training kicking into high gear. He ducked behind a tree, the rough bark digging into his back, and drew his weapon, fingers steady as he aimed. The enemy soldiers were too focused on the chaos to notice him at first. Eli's breath came in measured gasps as he lined up his shot, heart pounding with anticipation. He squeezed the trigger, the gun roaring to life as he sent a bullet into the fray. The impact was immediate, a soldier collapsing to the ground, and for a brief moment, the tide shifted in their favor. "Eli, you did it!" Jake's voice rang out, filled with awe and disbelief. But before Eli could respond, a hail of bullets erupted from the enemy's position, and he dropped back behind cover, adrenaline surging. He could hear the desperate shouts of his squad, the realization dawning that they were losing ground. Hargrove's voice was frantic now, urging the men to regroup, to fall back and hold their position. But Eli couldn't retreat. Not now. Not when he finally felt the spark of belief igniting within him. "We can't let them take this bridge," he shouted, his voice filled with determination. "If we fall back now, we'll lose everything." "Are you crazy?" Hargrove barked back, but Eli could see the uncertainty creeping into the sergeant's eyes. "You're gonna get yourself killed, or I'm going to win this fight," Eli shot back, the fire of conviction burning in his chest. He glanced at Jake, who nodded, a flicker of trust igniting between them. "We need to flank them. If we work together, we can push through." Just as he finished, a bullet whizzed past him, barely missing his shoulder. The urgency of the moment solidified his resolve. "I'll cover you, just trust me." With a nod from Jake, they charged forward, using the terrain for cover. Eli's senses heightened. He felt the sharp sting of the cold air as he sprinted, the ground beneath him uneven and treacherous. He could hear the shouts of his squad, the cacophony of gunfire and chaos blending into a symphony of desperation. Together they pressed on, Eli leading the charge. As they reached an advantageous position, he took a deep breath, steadying his aim. The enemy looked disorganized, their focus split between the attacking squad and the chaos of the ongoing battle. Eli's finger brushed the trigger, and with a single decisive shot, he took down another opponent. Cheers erupted from his squad, a chorus of disbelief and exhilaration, but the fight was far from over. "Keep pushing," Eli shouted, urging them onward. The momentum shifted, and in a matter of minutes they had the enemy on the run. The bridge was within reach, but just as victory seemed assured, disaster struck. A grenade landed nearby, sending Eli sprawling to the ground. Dazed, he blinked against the dust and debris, the world spinning around him. He could hear the frantic shouts of his comrades, but one voice cut through the noise: Hargrove. "Get down!" Hargrove shouted, throwing himself over Eli just as the explosion detonated. The impact knocked the wind out of both of them, and Eli gasped for breath as he struggled to comprehend what had just happened. "Sergeant!" Eli's voice was hoarse, panic clawing at his throat. Hargrove, though battered and bruised, pushed himself up, glaring at Eli with fierce determination. "You listen to me, kid. You're not just some boy in this uniform, you're one of us. Now get your head together and finish this." The words resonated in Eli's chest like a thunderclap. In that moment, the sergeant's sacrifice wasn't just a revelation of camaraderie. It was a testament to the faith that had been buried deep within him. Eli surged to his feet, a newfound strength coursing through him. The weight of the world lifted, and he felt the fire of purpose reignite. With a fierce shout, he charged toward the bridge, leading the charge with a determination that surged through the chaos. The enemy was retreating. They could sense their impending defeat. Eli could see it in their eyes, the certainty that they had miscalculated, that they had underestimated him. But the fight wasn't over yet. As they reached the bridge, Eli turned to his squad, heart racing. "We need to secure the area, set up defenses." He felt the surge of adrenaline, the thrill of leadership igniting a fire within him. As they secured the bridge, the reality of what they had accomplished began to sink in. Eli turned to his squad, a grin breaking across his face. "We did it. We actually did it." But as the adrenaline began to fade, a nagging thought tugged at the back of his mind. He reached into his pocket, fingers brushing against the worn edges of the Medal of Honor file he had kept hidden, a symbol of his past, of the battles fought and the sacrifices made. It was time to reveal the truth. Gathering his squad together, he took a deep breath. "Listen up, everyone," his voice rang with authority, cutting through the jubilant chaos. "I know some of you doubted me. I know you saw me as just another soldier, just a boy. But I've earned my place here." As he pulled out the Medal of Honor file, the atmosphere shifted, the weight of his words settling over the group. "This isn't just a medal. It's a testament to my journey. I've faced battles before and I've fought for my life. I'm not just a statistic, I'm a soldier, just like you." The silence that followed was deafening, the realization washing over his comrades as they absorbed the truth behind the man they had underestimated. Hargrove stepped forward, a look of respect etched on his face. "I had no idea, Eli. You've earned your place here more than any of us." In that moment, everything changed. The doubts, the sneers, the condescension, all shattered by the reveal of Eli's true worth. He wasn't just the black boy anymore. He was a soldier, a warrior who had fought for his place among them. As cheers erupted around him, Eli felt a rush of pride. This was what he had fought for, not just for recognition, but for the respect he had always deserved. He had turned the tide not just in battle, but in the hearts of those who had doubted him. The medal felt heavy in his hands, but it was a weight he would gladly carry. His journey was far from over, but today had marked a turning point. He would continue to fight, not just for himself, but for every soldier who felt the sting of prejudice, for every voice silenced by doubt. As he stood among his comrades, a sense of belonging enveloped him. They were no longer just a group of men. They were a brotherhood, bound by the shared struggle and the realization that strength comes in many forms. And Eli Carter, with his medal and his unwavering spirit, would ensure that their story would be one of triumph, a legacy that would echo long after the battle was won. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm glow over the bridge they had secured. Eli felt the weight of the world shift on his shoulders. and for the first time he knew he was exactly where he belonged. Elijah Eli Carter stood amidst the debris of what had once been a fierce battleground, the echoes of gunfire still reverberating in his mind. The mission to secure the bridge had transformed him from a target of scorn to a symbol of resilience. Yet the triumph felt bittersweet. As the last remnants of smoke cleared, he could feel the weight of his Medal of Honor pressing against his chest, its metal cool but heavy with the burden of proving his worth, not just to himself, but to those who had doubted him. "Eli," Private Jake Thompson called out, his voice cutting through Eli's reverie. The two had shared more than just the battlefield. They had navigated the treacherous waters of camaraderie and prejudice together. "You did it, man. You really showed them." Eli turned to face Jake, who wore a wide grin, but Eli could see the concern lurking beneath. "Did I really?" Eli asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Or did I just momentarily fulfill their expectations because they had no other choice?" Jake shook his head vehemently. "No. You showed them who you are, not just the medal, Eli. You saved lives out there. You're not just Black Boy anymore. You're Sergeant Eli Carter. You're a hero." The words hung in the air, laced with both admiration and disbelief. Eli couldn't shake the feeling that the respect he earned today was a fragile veneer, capable of shattering with the slightest tremor of prejudice. Captain Mason Reynolds might have begrudgingly acknowledged his skills during the debriefing, but Eli sensed the captain's inner conflict, the struggle between a deep-seated bias and the undeniable truth of Eli's bravery. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the battlefield, Eli and Jake found a quiet corner, away from the cacophony of men celebrating their survival. "What now?" Eli asked, the uncertainty gnawing at him. "I've proven myself. But what does that mean for the future? For the others who look like me?" Jake sat back against a tree, contemplating. "It means you have a voice now, Eli. You can be a mentor. You can help change the narrative for the next guy who walks into this camp and gets called boy instead of soldier." The thought ignited a flicker of hope within Eli. He had spent so long trying to break free from the chains of prejudice, but perhaps the real battle lay in helping others do the same. "You're right," he said, the conviction rising within him. "I can't just fight for myself. I need to fight for everyone who's been overlooked, who's been dismissed. If we want change, we have to be the change." With that newfound clarity, Eli stood tall, his posture reflecting a man reborn. The remnants of self-doubt began to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose that felt as solid as the ground beneath his feet. He had the chance to be a trailblazer, to pave the way for others to follow. Later that evening, after the dust had settled and the men were winding down, Eli found himself in front of the battalion, a group that had once viewed him through the lens of prejudice. He cleared his throat, feeling the weight of their gazes. "I know many of you have called me names, have doubted my abilities simply because of the color of my skin. But I'm here now, not just as a soldier, but as a testament to the fact that we can all rise above our prejudices." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the crowd. Eli continued, "This medal represents bravery, yes, but it also represents a promise. A promise to each of you that I will not let your doubts define me. Together, we can redefine what it means to be a soldier, to be a team. I want to help those who come after me, those who face the same challenges I did." As Eli spoke, he could see the shift in their expressions. The hardened faces softened, and he caught glimpses of understanding and respect. For the first time, he felt seen, not just for his race, but for his character, his courage, and his resolve. After the speech, Sergeant Bill Hargrove approached him, a rare smile breaking through his gruff demeanor. "You've got guts, Carter, I'll give you that. This battalion could use more men like you." Eli felt a warmth spread in his chest. The sergeant's words a balm for his earlier fears. The days following the mission were filled with challenges, but Eli was no longer alone in facing them. He began to mentor younger soldiers who were also struggling with prejudice, sharing his story and lessons learned. Together they formed a bond, a brotherhood that transcended color and background. Eli became a beacon of hope, inspiring others to rise above their circumstances. Yet it was not just the soldiers who noticed this shift. The higher-ups began to take interest in Eli's leadership potential. Captain Reynolds, while still grappling with his biases, recognized the value of having a soldier like Eli in a position of influence. "You've earned your place, Carter," he said during their next meeting. "I may have been wrong in the past, but I see the strength in your character now. Let's work together to ensure this battalion reflects the diversity of our nation." Eli nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "I appreciate that, sir, but it's not just about me. It's about creating an environment where everyone can thrive regardless of their background." As the weeks turned into months, Eli's influence grew. He organized workshops, discussions, and initiatives aimed at fostering understanding and respect among the soldiers. The conversations were not always easy, but they were necessary. Eli learned to embrace the discomfort, knowing that real change often comes from confronting the hardest truths. In quiet moments, Eli often found himself reflecting on his journey. He had gone from being dismissed as black boy to earning the respect of his peers and becoming a mentor to others. He had transformed not just his own life, but the lives of those around him. As he sat down to write a letter home, he felt the words flow easily. "Dear Mom, I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving, I'm leading the way for others, and I promise to keep fighting for what's right. This medal is not just a symbol of my bravery, it's a reminder of our journey together. I will share our story, and we will not be forgotten." With a deep breath, Eli sealed the letter, feeling a sense of closure wash over him. He had faced the storm of prejudice, emerged from it stronger, and now had the power to help others find their way. In that moment, as he looked out over the horizon, he knew the fight wasn't over, but he was ready for whatever came next. Eli's story is a testament to resilience and the power of standing up against injustice. If you believe in change, in standing together against prejudice, then join us on this journey. There are countless stories like Eli's, stories of bravery, hope, and perseverance. Subscribe to our channel and be a part of this movement for justice. We'll see you on the next mission.